Hi there from the Pick and Coop Farmstead. I'm out here planting another bed, and the goal was to plant squash and cucumbers together. And for those of you who are companion planters, they do go well together. They have the same type of bugs that go after them, and they require the same amount of water, fertilizer, that type of thing. So I was starting off really well this morning, and I was trying to load everything onto my quad to bring it up to the garden, and I heard something. I turned around and I had my full tray of veggies that I have been growing inside the house, waiting patiently to plant them out, and they fell off the bike and it crushed several. As you can see, they're all disheveled. A lot of the name tags came out, so I don't know what's what for sure. And yeah, so sometimes this kind of stuff happens. You got to roll with the punches. Luckily, I'm going to try to put all these in one bed, and as they start setting fruit, hopefully I will be able to tell what they are. So even though I had a plan, some of these were bush cucumbers and some are climbing cucumbers. Now I really don't have any idea what's what. So I think I'll have to change my plan. I'm trying to put all the cucumbers together, and then I have some shorter trellises maybe I'll put in between them so that give them something to climb up on and hope for the best. A lot of them got bent. Some right at the base, so those probably won't survive, but we're going to give it a good college try. So let's come along and start. I do have some that the little name tag is still in there. So this is a lemon cucumber, and mind you, I grew all of these guys from seed, and I started at the appropriate time to where I can plant them out, which is now. And they've been little tiny babies, but now I just have to kind of go with the flow. I mean, what can you do? Some things you can plant directly in the soil and you'll still have time. We do have a shorter growing season, so we're just gonna go with the flow and see what happens. So you want to put your fertilizer in your hole, just a refresher. Fill it up with water. That way they shock a lot less, especially now that it's gotten really warm around here. It's kind of a fine line. Once it gets warm enough to where you can plant these things out, then it goes directly from your last frost date to summer. It's what it feels like. So this one still has, this is a pickling cucumber. I'm going to put these in a bigger hole. There's a few here. And so I hope everybody had a really good Mother's Day. I did. I had a show in the big town of Whitmore yesterday at the Whitmore Elementary School. They're starting to do a little market, which is awesome. And the proceeds go to the school for the kids. They're doing some really cool things there. They hatched out baby chicks, and then they also grew a bunch of plants from seeds. So they had some nasturtiums and I think some beans and different things that they grew. Had I known I was going to drop all this stuff, I probably should have bought some plants yesterday, but hindsight's 20/20. Then there was another gal there, a really nice lady. She brought a bunch of herbs, and she grows a lot of her own herbs, and she doesn't make tinctures and stuff. She actually, oh, I forgot to put water in that guy. She makes tea with her, so she had some lemon balm. And I've been wanting to put lemon balm in my garden, my herb bed. So she said if I took it home and put it in water, that it would actually root. And I'm like, oh. So I bought some of that from her. And it perked right up. It was kind of droopy by the time I got home, but it perked right up. So hopefully they'll get roots soon, and I will have some lemon balm, which would make it really, really nice. All right, so here's my poor little squash. I don't even know. I know I had, I think 3 kinds of zucchini and an acorn squash. So it's bound to be one of those. I honestly don't know. I don't know enough about identifying the plants by the leaves to know what they are. So it doesn't matter. It's all going to come out in the wash, as they say. Hopefully they will survive and we will get squash. And you might ask, why am I planting my squash so close together? Well, last year I planted them up and I grew them up on a pole. I don't know if these guys are going to survive or not. We're just going to try. And you prune the bottom as it grows up, and they make these little squash trees. And that way you can plant a lot more plants together in the same bed, which is nice because squash takes up a lot of room. And it worked really, really well. So I can't remember, my bed was probably like 3 by 6 maybe. And I had probably 8 squash plants in there, am I guessing? And, oh, this is my Armenian cucumber. It doesn't look good either. And they all did wonderfully. And then in the middle of the whole thing, I put a whole bunch of basil. So it actually worked really well. So I'm going to try that. I've never planted cucumbers and squash together. So like I said, I'm going to trellis the cucumbers. I'll just put one crossways. Because normally my trellises, I do the length of the bed, especially for my tomatoes and peppers. But since we lined all these guys with the hardware cloth, I can't put a T-post down in the middle of that. And my trellises are not long enough, my cattle panels, to go lengthwise down these beds. Because we had to utilize my longer ones. So I'm going to try to go crossways, and I don't see why not. I can just put T-posts on both sides and then wire it up. So we're going to try that, see how that works. You just kind of have to roll with the punches sometimes. You got to use what you have. And the object is to get your garden and your food and everything without having to go out and spend hundreds of dollars that nobody has, you know, to do that, because then you're kind of defeating your purpose. But at least you know you're still growing some good, healthy fruits and vegetables for your family. So that is a good thing. Well, little squash, we'll see what you are. We don't quite know yet. I just hope enough of them didn't get bent up or broken to where they won't grow. Squash are pretty hardy, so we'll see what happens. I could not even believe it. I heard that sound and I turned around and I was like, oh, holy cow, what a now what? I almost started crying, but I didn't. I thought worst case scenario, they don't grow. I'll come out here and plant some seeds. And a few squash plants goes a long, long ways. I mean, I've tried canning squash. I've tried slicing it and freezing it. The only thing that really seemed to work as far as preserving squash is dehydrating it. Well, I've got 3 gallons of sliced squash. The other thing that works really well is you can grate it, and then I measure it out in 2-cup increments. and I put them in little freezer bags, and that's just the right amount to make my zucchini bread. But you can only eat so much zucchini bread. You tell yourself it's healthy because there's squash in it. But I mean, it's kind of a tough one because it just goes mushy on you. Oh, this has a tag. This is a Ford zucchini, which is a type of a green zucchini. Oh, these were just, well, all right, little fella, good luck. Then as you start growing up, I'll get my little poles. I have these little poles that I salvaged from a one of the first little easy ups I bought, and I didn't like it, and then I turned it into a paint booth, and so anyways, I ended up throwing away all of the canvas for that because it couldn't really use it anymore for anything. And so I thought, well, these poles are awesome. I can't throw them away. Gardening is where being a hoarder comes in handy. And I'll be gosh darn if I didn't start using them to grow my squash on. So it worked out perfect. They're the perfect length because they're two poles that you hook together, and it worked really, really well. So I saved those, and I even, my last show, I had a show weekend before last in Bella Vista, and I was so excited. I don't know if you watched the video, but I did a video. It's called The Anatomy of a Craft Show, and I thought, you know, I'm just going to set up my tripod and film me setting it up, and then I'll pan over everything once it's all set up. And I did that. The video turned out great, and I set it up on the bleachers. It was in the gym there. Set it up on the bleachers, and I bet you can't even believe what I did. I left the darn thing there. So luckily, the sweet guy that he is, took me and let me pick out a brand new tripod, and he said, get a good one, because I had a cheap one. And I did. I got a really, really nice one. The man is totally wonderful, I tell you. All right, so now we're going to move to the other side of the bed. There we go. See if I can't not break things anymore. All right, so we're back over on the other side of the bed. Back to my poor little cucumbers here. I'm so glad. It was a lot of work building these beds and putting the wire on. The wire is the worst part. That stuff's hard to work with. And I'm like, was I kind of do overkill on this? Was this kind of a crazy adventure I didn't even need to do? And I started coming out here when it started warming up, and there's so much gopher activity. I think it's going to be just as bad as it was last year. So yeah, every time I get frustrated putting that wire on, all I have to do is come out here and look at all the gopher holes. And once it's done, it's done. You don't have to worry about it. So I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but hopefully it's warm enough to where you can plant things out. It's a lot of work, but I really look forward to it. For one thing, it's like you can look at it and you say, I grew that. And then the other thing is, you can just go out in your yard and pick all the stuff for dinner, vegetables, lunch, whatever you need, salad. And you know what's in it, what's on it, what kind of seeds they were. So you know it's a lot better for you also. So hopefully these guys will flourish. Some might die, some might not. It's just kind of the way things go. And I have been putting those trays on my front of my scooter there for the last, what, 2 or 3 years. Never ever once have I had a problem like that. And today, nobody was even touching the bike. My dog wasn't up on the bike, nothing. Wind's not blowing, and the whole tray just dumped. I'm just like, holy moly. But it is a good lesson of patience, I have to say. Like I said, I didn't get angry. I didn't cry. I thought I was going to cry, but I did not. I just kind of chuckled. I mean, what can you do? And just hope for the best. And like I said, we can always throw some seeds in here. And cucumbers and squash are pretty fast growing. Not as fast as beans, but there we go. I'm all nestled in there. And later today, I'm going to be working on my least favorite part of building the beds. I've got my big 12-foot beds that I did the Shosugi bond video on. And those I've got to put some wire on. And it's kind of hard doing that kind of stuff by yourself, but when you live way up here, our neighbors, you can't even see where our neighbors are. It's kind of hard to grab somebody, and the mister's off earning money, so I can keep doing this kind of stuff. So yeah, you just kind of improvise. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. You just gotta wait till they get home. Somebody can help you. I am glad to be getting these guys outside. They are way overdue. They need to come out. Okay, these guys are the acorn squash. And I did learn that when you grow fall squash, you don't plant them in the fall. You plant them right when you plant all the other squash. What that means, if they're winter squash, I should say, is what they're known as, they develop thick, hard skins. So they store well over the winter, like if you have a little root cellar, a little place where you can keep them. And then you should be able to eat squash all winter long. Last year was the first time I grew acorn squash, and we enjoyed those for a good couple of months after summer was over with. And they were delicious. They didn't get real big because I planted them kind of late. It was trying to replace stuff that the gophers had demolished. And they were really good. I just split them in half, and I put them on one of my stoneware baking trays, and I baked them for a little bit, and I think I put some salt and pepper and butter on them, and they were just right for a single serving. They were probably about the size of a softball, maybe a little bigger, and boy, were they delicious. So they grew enough to give us, we probably got maybe 6 of them, I guess. And they did store really, really well. Then last year, I do a show in the fall at this really big family-owned pumpkin ranch, Nash's Ranch. Super nice people. If you're local and you've not heard about it, you've got to take your kids out there. It's really fun. Anyhow, at the end of the season, they haul out because they have all kinds of gourds and squash and different things like that. They haul it all out in these huge produce boxes out in front of the ranch. And I had been wanting to try Hubbard squash because you can it or freeze it just like pumpkins, and you can do all the things you can do with pumpkins with it. So I bought one of those big old Cinderella pumpkins, and I bought a Hubbard squash. I mean, this thing was probably, I want to say 10, 15 pounds. It was ginormous. And I saved the seeds from that and the Cinderella pumpkin. It was a really pretty pumpkin. It was kind of gray when I bought the pumpkin, and then I let it kind of sit up on the counter there, and it turned a little yellow. Then it was the most beautiful orange meat. And I believe for Christmas or Thanksgiving, I can't remember which, I made pumpkin pie with it. I was really anxious to try it. And the meat is really sweet. I was really impressed. And so this year, that's why I'm building so many of these big 12-foot boxes, because pumpkins, especially the bigger pumpkins and squash like the Hubbard, they're ginormous, and you can't really grow them on a trellis. You would have to have this huge like nylon sling or something to put them in, because they will just rip right off the vines. So I want to dedicate a couple of beds just to the pumpkins and the squash, the big squash, just to see how they do. All right, little guys, do your thing. Please don't die. All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and sign off of here. I've got to finish watering up the garden. It's so nice to be able to come out in the mornings now and just absolutely be in the cool air, water, listen to the birds, and watch my little plants grow. So if you have any questions, just ask me in the comments. I'll put the Nash's, I don't know if I said Haws, but it's actually Nash's Pumpkin Ranch that I go to. It's awesome. I'll put a link to their little Facebook page or their website, and you can keep track of when they have their little pumpkin patch. And there's all kinds of little photo op cutouts that they've got painted, and it's just really cute. And they have a petting zoo. It's real fun for the kids. All right, well, enough of me rambling. I'm going to finish this, and then today I truly am going to go get some pine straw. So I hope the sun is shining where you are, and have a great day. Bye-bye.